All right, you know what it is, man. This one is about the DC and Louisiana car versus the Crip car. All right? The DC and Louisiana car versus the Crip car. So don't say I didn't tell you. This is how we're going to begin the show. Let's get this thing rocking, man. All right. All right, so this is what it is, man. We had a joint in Poloc, right? I'm going to tell y'all how this is. Sit back, man. Let me ride, man. I'm going to give y'all 3 seconds to tap out if y'all don't like the way I ride. They got other channels, no disrespect. All right, so now, we got the DC and Louisiana car versus the Crip car. Now, DC and the Crips never really got along. Let's just say that. The DC dudes ain't really have no problem with the Crips. You know what I mean? But the issue was the Crips, they wasn't used to, you know, aggressive, wild dudes. You know what I mean? Now, we know the Crips and the Bloods out in California, they get busy, so not taking nothing from them. But if you ever been around an East Coast dude, like from New York, Philly, Jersey, you know what I mean, DC, we real hyper and aggressive. That's why they say they like my energy, and that's why the rat bastards and the flip-flop wearing in public dudes don't like my channel. You know what I mean? They say I bust my gun too much, but that's what gangsters do. You know what I mean? So I'm talking to my gangsters and my people that want to know about gangsters. Now, let me explain to you how that worked. Louisiana and DC, they made an alliance. You know, I'm going to introduce a new character to y'all. You know, I'm going to introduce a new character. You know, this one is Bouncer. You know, big shout out to Bouncer, you know, a.k.a. Malik Smith, you know, from Louisiana. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's give him a round of applause. Let's give him a round of applause. Now, this brother is official. He was in ADX, came out of ADX and all that, went down to Poloc. When he went down to Poloc, you know what I mean? They formed an alliance with DC, you know? Yes, you know? Louisiana and DC rode together, you know? Out west. This is the way they do it, just so y'all understand. I'm giving y'all a game that y'all can't get nowhere else. Because we got good brothers from DC like Antoine White, you know, Mario, rest in peace, lost his life in Poloc, you know? And a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, you know, y'all put it in the comments. I already know, but I like to give y'all something to talk about. He lost his life by a Crip in Poloc. So you understand, it's always been a little bad blood because DC was so wild and aggressive, and you know, the Crips was straight gangsters, but they was more laid back. Remember, that's where the G-Funk and Warren G and all them come from, where they kind of more laid back, when DC's more on some go-go, you know what I mean? You know, feeling the beat and just getting in a war mode, you know what I mean? So, you know, they get in that war mode, and it's like, you know, when we in New York and we had the Onyx and they was doing the slam dance and we was bang, bang. So, you know, just to give y'all, you know, how the 3 geographical locations, you know, move, you know, because the music is what make and calm the savage beast, you know, and it also brings out the animal in this. Now, the DC dudes with the go-go, that's like a war chant. You know what I mean? Big shout out to DC again, man. Y'all can hate on me all you want, man. Y'all can hate on me all you want. Because I used to love, calm down, y'all, calm down. Let me tell the story. I used to love to go to Iverson Mall to get the go-go tapes, you know what I mean? I go pull up on my man Charlotte over there at Marlboro Pike, you know what I mean, in the Suitland area, and then I shoot over there to Iverson Mall, and might grab a pair of Jordans and then grab a couple of mixtapes from the dudes out there selling the go-go tapes, and I bring them back to New York. We do what we do. The same thing when I'm in Miami. I'm riding, you know, I'm riding. Riding just means it's a prison story, but I'm just telling you a unique story, you know? So if you don't like it, boom, you know how to disappear. Now, so in Miami, we did the same thing. We used to go down to Miami and go get the Uncle Al tapes. You know, remember Uncle Al? You know, Miami, we got to give him a round of applause, too. Rest in peace to Uncle Al. Rest in peace to Uncle Al. Calm down, calm down. Now, you know, Uncle Al was one of the baddest DJs down in Miami when I was down there back in the 80s, man, in the early 90s, man. Cold animal when he came. I mean, you know, jump on it, jump on it. You know, that's where we was at. But, you know, let me get back. I'm riding. Let me get back. Bloods, the DC and the Crip car, you know, didn't really get along because DC was too aggressive. They had them young boys that was just straight wild. They had no direction. They just wanted blood. You know what I mean? And you know, California is more, you know, knuckle it up, but DC, they know we in the penitentiary, and they push the line where ain't too much knuckling up going on. If you want a fair one, of course, you go in the fight, get in the cell, get a fair one. But if something pop off, you better believe the knives is popping out. You know what I mean? And that's the way it is. So they in the yard, you know. But, oh, let me get back to Bouncer. Bouncer come there and, you know, they form an alliance with DC, Louisiana and DC, right? And, you know, here you go. The Crips now, they got a basketball game against DC and the Crips. They out there playing, they shucking and jiving, they doing what they got to do. And, you know, the ref makes a bad call, you know. So now when the ref makes a bad call, all hell breaks loose. You know, everybody run up in each other's face. They run up on the ref and, you know, 9 times out of 10, the ref is somebody, you know, or a statue in, you know, whatever car. So when they ran up on the ref and they screaming on the ref about the call, the homies didn't like it and everybody get together and, you know, somebody took off on somebody. I know who it was, but we're not even going to go there because y'all going to say picking sides. But, you know, somebody takes off on somebody. Boop! So next thing you know, everybody out there start fighting. Knives start coming out of everywhere. They swinging, they going crazy, they pushing the knife. Now the deuces go off. The deuces is when the police see it from in the tower. They hit their radio, got a little orange button. And I'm gonna go buy a walkie-talkie so y'all can show you what the prison walkie-talkie look like with the deuces. When they hit that, it goes off. Woo, 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 woo. It don't sound like no street siren. You know what I mean? It don't sound like no street siren. Let's get that straight. But now, everything goes crazy. So the police come running up out there, and whenever there's an incident in another unit or in the yard, they lock down the jail. You know, when the deuces go off, they lock down the jail. They tell everybody that didn't go out to a move, to the rec, the education, the chapel, commissary, or whatever, you have to go in your cell. You know, that way they can keep everybody contained. So they locked everybody in the cell. Now, when they got everybody locked up in the cell, the dudes in the yard, they on the ground. So when the deuces go off, you go in the cell, or if you're in the yard, or if you're out in the hallway or something, they tell you to lay on the ground. So you got to lay on the ground so the police can run by and go get to the incident to see what's going on. So when the police ran out there to the yard, and, you know, everything going crazy out there. Dudes is fighting, going crazy. Some dudes stopped, some didn't. Because literally it was like the whole yard. You know what I mean? Because you know where Polotic'S is at. So that's their backyard, you know. And they got DC with them, you know. And then you got the Crips who go hard, you know. So you got both of these dudes out there fighting. The police come out there. They got everybody laid down. So, you know, after they get that calmed down, they call recall for one unit at a time. So when they call one unit to go in, they say, okay, such and such unit, you know what I mean? Return back to your housing unit. The other dudes in the housing unit is already locked down. So they start walking in, you know? So as they walking in the yard, through the yard, and they get to the unit, by the time, and this is everybody moving at once, you know, if that goes to that unit, it's not one at a time. But now as they going in the units, you know, everything pops off, you know? DC and Louisiana, you know, go at it again with the Crips in the unit. So as everybody going in the units, they, you know, they fighting the ones that didn't have knives with them. The dudes under in the door, behind the door, they start sliding knives out. They grab the knives that the homies slid from in the cell because, you know, they got metal detectors going to the yard. So with the metal detector going to the yard, some dudes trying, they stash the knife and they bring it by them, and some dudes don't. And some dudes already have knives in the yard. But when they coming off the yard, all you heard was tee, 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 tee. Everybody was strapped. You know what I mean? The ones that wasn't strapped, as soon as they went in, they ran to their homie cell, they slid the knives under the door, and now it's a big old knife fight in a unit. And I'm not talking about one unit, I'm talking about all the units. You know what I mean? So now they in the unit and they fighting and popping, bam, 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 bam. So while they popping, the deuces go off again in this unit. So now police run over to that unit. Now they already called another unit, so here go the police running in another unit because they done popped off. So now the police is all spread out. Dudes getting knives slid all under the door. They doing, they gotta do, they pushing the knife. I mean, it's going, it's bloody. It's blood everywhere. I'm talking about a few dudes got airlifted. Few dudes, you know, went to the regular infirmary. You know what I mean? It wasn't nothing nice. But they in there and they fighting. So now the police come in and they got everybody laid down on the ground. So now they lay everybody down on the ground, the unit, to get everything in order. So when they lay everybody down on the ground, you know, of course, there was some people that seen that what was going on. That was from D.C., Louisiana, and the Crips. You know what I mean? And the Crips and the Bloods usually roll together. If the Crips get into something with, you know, another race or another car, the Bloods roll with them because they all California. That's the way that move. Let's just keep that 100, just to understand, because these are cars. So if you young boys think that this is sweet and I'm going to go to prison, I'm going to do this, I'm going to make it happen and all that, yeah, I mean, no, you're not going to do it, because this is the way it go. Now, you picture dudes in the yard fighting over the basketball. You in another side of the yard, or you in the recreation department, or you in the chaplain, or, you know, you at the library or the education, and you go back to your unit, and here goes another man running at you to stab you just because of your geographical location. You know what I mean? So if you coming back from the library and you a Crip, you better believe the D.C. and Louisiana swinging that knife at you. And if you're from D.C. or Louisiana, you better believe the Crips and the Bloods swinging a knife at you too. You know what I mean? So this is what it is. You don't have a choice. So bottom line is, you got to fight. You know what I mean? And of course, I know some of you dudes sitting there, and I'm going to give you gunshots. You know what I mean? The cowards that's saying, I'm not fighting. I'm not getting involved. That don't got nothing to do with me. Well, I'm going to tell you how that play out when you feel you want to play that card. So now they come in, they pushing. So as they pushing everything going on, the police come in there and they shackle everybody up and handcuff them, you know, but they use what they call a flexi cuff. The flexi cuff look like a big zip tie, you know what I mean? It's about this damn long, you know, and they wrap it around your wrist and tie you up with the joints backwards so you can't move, because they don't want to put it this way where you could get something and do something. So they put the wrist behind your back. Like when you come out the door, when you're in the cell, they tell you to back out the door and put the backs of your hands together. So you got to back out the door and put your hand like this. You understand what I'm saying? That's so you can't do them, because if you have it like this, you could grab them. So these are all things that you don't know other players. That's why the Cash App is on the screen. Make sure it says it was created in July 2020, not April 2023. July 2020, the Cash App is open, it's on the screen. You know what I mean? Because the game to be sold, not told. Where else could you get raw, uncut information like this? You understand what I'm saying? So now, this is where we go. And, you know, yeah, I'm going to tell you straight up, you know, it was nothing nice. This is the way this plays out now, right? So they done locked everybody up. They took the dudes to the shoe that was in the day room. The ones that wasn't fighting, they got locked up too, if they was from Louisiana, D.C., or a Blood or a Crip, you know what I mean? Because they, you know, feel like everybody was involved from these cars. So whether you get involved or not, you're going to the shoe. You're going to lose your property. They're going to take all your stuff. They're going to throw out some of your property, throw out your legal stuff. You might not get your personal pictures of your baby in her bikini, you know what I mean? Or your children chilling on, you know, around the crib, you know, because that's the first thing they do. They don't want to pack all that stuff. So especially if you're a person like me that had a whole bunch of stuff because you've been down a couple of decades, they're not packing, you know, all this old stuff. They're going to just grab the bare necessities, what you're supposed to get, and the rest of the stuff they're going to throw out. The orderly get it. When you come out the hole, you know what I mean? Your homies let you know who was the orderly that night and what he seen them take that came out your cell, things like that. And then you go confront him till you get your stuff back. If you don't give it back to you, you put your knife in him, and then a whole nother fight break out. This is prison. Welcome to prison. Don't say you didn't get it. I'm giving it to you raw. Welcome to federal prison. Gunshots to anybody that don't understand the real. So if this is what y'all want to go through, feel free to keep doing what you're doing. I can't stop nobody from doing nothing, because I wouldn't stop when I was doing me, and I didn't listen to nobody when I was doing me. But I'm sure I know a few homies around me that would have listened if somebody would have tried. I wasn't ready to listen. I'm just keeping it 100. Like when Guy Fisher and William Underwood tried to talk to me in Allenwood, I wouldn't listen to them. These are my elders. I respected them as my elders, but I still wanted to be an animal. You know what I mean? So, you know, they said I was a little too wild, a little too cocky, things like that. So, you know, that's just me, man. I mean, forgive me, you know. But, you know, because they from the Heron era. These are older men that's more seasoned. And we wasn't seasoned then. We was, you know, just conditioned to go. You know what I mean? You know what conditioned to go means? That means whenever something happens, you just go. Like, you know, let me tell you about my brother, Lou Sims. You know what I mean? Let me tell you about Lou Sims, right? Lou Sims is the type of dude that if something happened, He's not aggressive, loud, boisterous. He laid back, he calculated, and he's very dangerous, and he's going to tell you straight up. This is Lou. You know what I mean? Let me show you how Lou moves. Lou would be there, and dudes be arguing or whatever, and Lou will sit there and he'll just look. He don't say nothing, but he's observing everything and already got the plan put together because he's a chess player. He was one of the best chess players that we had in Harlem. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to keep it 100. I'm even going to say he was the best chess player we had out of Harlem. Lou ran the card wherever he was at. That's how Lou moved. Now, Lou would sit there, and once he decided to go, he go, and he's moving like a steamroller. You understand what I'm saying? He's moving because he stayed working out. You know what I mean? He kept his knives with him. He didn't need no whole bunch of people, but everybody held him down because that was, you know, the big homie. And, you know what I mean? They know if he move, that, you know, you got to move. You know what I mean? Because, you know, they're going to move on a whole New York card the same way I told you that, you know, the D.C. and Louisiana moved on the Crips, and it don't matter if you was a Crip or Blood when D.C. and Louisiana came in the cell, or if you was a D.C. or Louisiana when the Crips and the Bloods came in, they just going at them. But, you know, Lou was a laid-back, calculated dude. You understand? So Lou, you know, kind of reminds me of a West Coast dude. You know what I mean? Because you'd think he was laid back, because he is laid back. You know what I mean? He don't do a lot of talking. He's not a loud dude. I'm loud. I'm hyper. I'm always having fun. I'm keep it going. Hey, oh, that's me. You know what I mean? And Lou more like, you know, that's Lou. You know what I mean? You know, John Koff. There's a few brothers like that. You understand what I'm saying? So you understand. They just sit back and just observe, and then they move, and they move out like a steamroller. But me, I'm just always hype. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's, you know, because I refuse to take their medication, you know, thanks to, you know, Dr. Shakur. Make sure, rest in peace to Dr. Shakur. Rest in peace to Dr. Shakur. Yo, excuse me, y'all, relax. If y'all didn't see the video that I did, the tribute/eulogy to Dr. Shakur, make sure you go watch that video and watch the other videos, because there's all types of game. I got over 150 prison story videos. So that's why I went to a little modern current affairs with, you know, Casanova 2 times and Finesse, you know what I mean? 2 times and I'm getting ready to do a, YNW Melly breakdown of the case. So if y'all want that YNW Melly breakdown of the case from Unique Mecca Audio, put it in the comments. I'm thinking about working on something with that, because a lot of people been hitting me, want me to cover that, and they don't really understand what's going on. They want to know what's going on from me, because I know how to break it down in layman's terms so they can understand it, instead of all that fancy jargon that they do on YouTube trying to look important. You know what I mean? I'm just a regular dude from the block, so, you know, I ain't got time for all that trying to dress it up and put, you know, sugar on, you know what I mean? I'll put it like my intelligence is there. My intelligence is not there. You know, I'm just hood. Now, let me ride back. So now, we done had the big fight. They done locked everybody up, so now dudes go back to the shoe. You understand what I'm saying? Where we at? You know, I like to check my time, make sure everything is right. So dudes go back to the shoe, and they got them in the shoe, and they start bringing us out to rec the next day. So when we go out to rec the next day, it's like, now we get a chance to talk. Because remember, all the units popped off, and we all, you know, locked up in the shoe. So when this happens, we get to say who did what and who didn't do what. So if you didn't get involved, if you didn't pop off, you know what I mean? Because you had dudes that ran from all cars, you understand? And you had dudes, you know what I mean, that just quietly, you know, went act like they was getting ice in the ice room, you know what I mean, or whatever they were doing, because they didn't pop off, you know? And those dudes that didn't pop off, now it comes out who didn't pop off, you know what I mean? Now, if you don't pop off, you're going to get punished. Bottom line, you can't stay on the compound if you're not going to pop off when it's time for the car to pop off, because the car going to pop off for you. So how would you feel if something happened and, you know, a dude snuffed you, you understand? And the other brothers didn't help. But when they snuffed another brother, you helped. You know what I mean? So it's already known that when one go, we all go. That's the way it works with all cars. So both sides, you know, the Crips, the Bloods, D.C., Louisiana, they all got together when we was in the shoe and found out who didn't do what. And certain dudes was dumb enough, you know what I mean, knowing they didn't pop off, to go in the cages when they call wreck with dudes that did pop off. But then now they get out there, and now it's a conversation over who did what and who didn't do what. So all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose. You know what I mean? So now they out there punishing this dude in the set because he didn't pop off. So if you youngins want to go, you know what I mean, to prison, you know what I mean, to say that I'm going to mind my business, I'm going to be on my own time, you can be on your own time. You know what I mean? Period. Nothing wrong with that, because I was on my own time. You can be on your own time. You know what I mean? But I'm still going to roll with my Muslim brothers, and I'm going to roll with my New York brothers and Jersey brothers and, you know, Philly, East Coast. That's the way we work. You know what I mean? We all from the East Coast, so if something go down, we all move down. I can't say, oh, I don't mess with this dude. I don't mess. If we Muslim, we all moving. End of story. You know? And this brother that I mentioned that I introduced to you, Bouncer, a.k.a. Malik Smith, Louisiana's finest. You know what I mean? He kept the D.C. and Louisiana car together, where they formed an alliance, where they moved together, and believe me, there was a force to reckon with once they did that. You know, big shout out to Bouncer again, man. Big shout out to Bouncer. You know, big shout out to Bouncer. You know, all right, relax. You know, Bouncer, like I said, he's Muslim now. You know, good brother, man, good brother. But now we up in the joint, and we find out who doing what, so we winds up punishing them. So now they put us back in the cage, and the police know what's going on. So now the police want to find out if they can open up their jail. So they go into units, and they got all the staff in one unit at a time, and they got these papers that when you go in there, they ask you in confidence, you know, do you know what happened? Do you know who was involved? You know, would you tell us who was involved? You know, and then when you tell them, no, I don't know nothing, then they say, well, if you knew, would you tell us? You know what I mean? And that's when, of course, you tell them no again. But now you had some dumb dudes that went back there and, you know, told everything. You know what I mean? Told everything. I mean, they was singing more than Barry White and Stevie Wonder. You know what I mean? They were just singing, you know? So now they think that it's in confidence because the police took him and his cellie out and put one in one room with staff and one in another room with staff and asked each one of them, you know, do you know what happened? You know? And dudes feel like there's nobody in there so they could tell, you know? But this the way the penitentiary work. And this the only way to survive in the penitentiary work. The only way to survive in the penitentiary is keeping your mouth shut. The same thing is when you get picked up by the police. Shut the F up. Remember that. You know what I mean? So now dudes go in there and they start talking. And then now they find out everything, and then they wind up going back and locking up the names of the people called that they said is going to pop off. And in the computers, they also got the names of people that's going to pop off. Like me, being that I had alleged stabbing on 2 police in Lewisburg, and I went to ADX and all that, they had what they call a red flag next to me. So if it was anything to do with New York, Muslims, you know what I mean, or anybody that I was affiliated with, Jamaicans, whatever, you know, first thing they're going to do is, you know, or if it's dealing with like a work strike, you know, a food strike, you know what I mean? Being that I was involved in a riot, they consider it all in one, saying, well, he's willing to buck the system. So they had a little red flag next to my name. And anytime anything happened, they hit the computer, and everybody on the compound with the red flag name come up, and they go pick them up first and go lock them up. And I was one of those. So now the brother that's in there, when they tell, and now they got me back in the shoe. You know, they got Lou Sims back in the shoe. What they do is, you got police that'll come to the door and tell you, yo, you know, such and such told. I even had police bring me the slips. I didn't ask for it. You know what I mean? Just to show you how they move. Because the police don't like rats either. The police don't want an inmate rat on the compound. They use the inmate rats on the compound, but they don't want them on the compound. Because if you're a rat on your comrades, you're definitely rat on the police, so they didn't like them either. So what they did is they'll bring these little slips, you know? They'll bring the papers, you know, that they interviewed the dudes with that, said no, 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 whatever, and they'll bring them and they'll slide all the papers under there for the people that gave information to the cars that needed it to go to, so that the car could clean their own house instead of administration doing something to them. So now nobody says that they see in the paper, they know what go on, and a lot of times in some jails they don't give you the paper, you know what I mean, of who did what. They'll just come tell you, yo, don't mess with him, he ain't right. When he came in the back, he was telling everything. You understand what I'm saying? When you're cool with certain police, they'll give you the paperwork to show you who did what. Not that they need to, but they just did that because they didn't want it in the file and they was going to throw it away anyway, so they give it to you so you keep house clean, because as long as you keep the rats off the compound, they don't have to worry about the rats telling on them as officers. Because you're going, like I said, you're going to tell on your friend, you're going to tell on them. So people talk about, oh, this one drop note, that one drop. Listen, you always, it always come out. Not sometimes, always. You know what I mean? You got people that do that, and those are the people that wind up getting stabbed up at that jail, go to another jail, and hope nobody knows what happened in another jail, and then they wind up doing the same thing again because it's in their blood to be a rat. You know what I mean? And they get stabbed up. So all that, this for drop note, no. This is not the FCI. This is not the camp. This is the penitentiary we talking about. This is where I was at for 2 decades. When you're in this penitentiary and you're dropping notes, you will be found out. I'm even gonna give y'all a couple of stories on dudes that drop notes, how they found out. You understand what I'm saying? And cause I got a really good story about my man Nathaniel Appleby. If anybody know Nathaniel Appleby, you know what I mean? From New York, caught his case in Baltimore, and he used to play with, I think, the Gap Band or one of them bands, and he killed either a white dude or a cop in the state of Maryland, allegedly, and then he winds up going in the feds and he kills a white dude there, allegedly, and they had a big hit out on him with, Barry Mills and all them. I know y'all know these names. These are stories I got for you. That's why my Cash App on the screen. Make sure it says it was created in 2020. Always go in, hit the logo, make sure it was created in 2020. My Cash App is working, but it must say created 2020, and it's not the picture of me. My Cash App is not the picture of me. Let's get that right. You know what I mean? It's not the picture of me. So when he changed it back to make it the same color as my logo, because he's a crafty little scumbag. When he changed it back to make the logo, just remember to hit the logo and it's supposed to say it was created in July 2020. That's me. But anyway, let me get back to my story. Gunshots, because I like to ride. I like to ride. I'm giving y'all these stories, man. I mean, I can't even, my grandkids is not old enough for this yet. I can't wait to have my grandkids, sit down next to me and I tell them some of these stories, you know what I mean? To make sure they right. But right now they in school, they on the honor roll, so they don't need these stories, so it's a good thing. By the time they get older, think that they cocky enough and they want to be unique and run around out there and do all this crazy stuff like granddad, I'll sit them down and scare the crap out of them. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to catch them early. Because that's what we have to do. We have to grab our kids early from in the household, from in the neighborhood. You don't let them go out there, go wild, and then say they're out of control. No, you allowed them to go out of control. Because at one time they was listening to you. Somewhere along the line they stopped listening because somewhere along the line you allowed them to get away with something. A child is like a dog. You allow him to piss in the house one time, he's always going to piss in the house. You know what I mean? So that's why when the dog pisses in the house, you rub his nose in and smack the crap out of him. That's just the way it goes. Let's get that right. You know what I mean? So no faking. So let me ride back. So now they find out who's who, passed the paperwork. They got everybody down packed, what's going on. And, we done ran the hot dudes off the compound, So now they put the dudes that they told on in the shoe. Now we all get back there in the shoe. Some of us, they want to transfer. Some of us, they want to keep. But they still need some of us, aggressive dudes on the compound to keep the other dudes in check. You know what I mean? So it all depends on how you talk to them when you come to the door. And it depends on what stupid question they ask you when you come to the door. Because if they ask you a stupid question, you're going to tell them get out of here. Back in the day, I'm not going to tell. I was going to tell you about, if y'all want to know what a tough man sheet is, put that in the comments. See, these are all things that come to my mind while I'm talking, because I be riding, man, and this is the way I ride. If y'all want to know what a tough man sheet is, I'll tell you about another jail. But let me give you a hint. A tough man sheet is when the police come to your door, Man, I'm not even going to tell you. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to do a story on that sometime this week. All right. So now, they done interrogated and they got all that down. You understand? So now, the police always tell you who's telling. There's always going to be a police that's on man time, because not every police correction officer, as they properly called, not every correction officer is a correction officer. You know what I mean? You know, or is a police. Let's use that word. You know, because they do try and keep correction at all times. But they not police, meaning they not going to be with the bull crap, you know? They despise a rat bastard just as much as I do and the rest of my comrades. You know what I mean? Because once you got a rat amongst you, nothing is safe. Nothing is safe. And that's why I say I don't have a problem with a rat, because I already know rat eat the food when you go to sleep at night and chip off the bags and you hear the little kick. That's the way they in there telling the police everything. Rat bastards. You know what I mean? Don't respect them. You know what I mean? But I respect them for being a rat. Just tell me you're a rat and we good. We know how to deal with you. No disrespect to you. If you want to tell, do you. You know what I mean? Don't agree with it. Not telling you to do it. Therefore, I'm telling you don't get involved so you don't have to make these decisions to be a rat bastard. You know what I mean? So don't get involved is what I'm telling you. But if you think you tough enough and you could go through living in Poloc, having to deal with all this, go through ADX, Lum Park, Atwater, Victorville, Beaumont, Leavenworth, Allenwood, you know, Scranton, Pennsylvania, you know, if you could deal with all of that, do you? You know? But I'm telling you, it ain't gonna be easy. You know what I mean? It ain't going. There's a whole lot of politics and it's a whole different world in there, you know? That's when you really have to be on man time. Cop your hats. Call me at the number on the screen. You know what it is. You know, yeah, I'm hustling. You know what I mean? This is the way we hustle. You know what I mean? The same way Jerry Lewis hustles when he does the telephone. You know what I mean? Come on, you know what it is. You know? But anyway, just so you understand, you know, it's, oh my God. Yo, I think I've been on here long enough, man. You know, but bottom line is, and you know, DC, Louisiana got into it with the Crips, you know what I mean? In Poloc, all hell broke loose, and that's the way it played out, just giving you an incident of what happens in the prison. And, you know, I got that YNW Melly joint that I'm going to work on that right now when I'm done with this. But I'm going to get this up to you nice and early. It's 9 o'clock, so we'll have this up by 10:30. You know what I mean? Give me till 10:30, you'll have this video up. Now, I want to thank y'all for coming in. Make sure if you're not subscribed, subscribe. Please. Subscribe. And you already know, hit the like button. You know what I mean? If you ain't going to do the Cash App, make sure you subscribe. Please don't watch the content if you're not going to subscribe. Subscribe. All right? So let's go. We're going to keep this 100. Let's get this outro going. You know what I mean? So we can show you how we do this over here. Unique Mecca Audio. And don't forget, I don't care who don't like it. Gunshots to your rat bastard ass, because only the rat bastard don't like it because they think I'm talking about them. But I'm not. And I want to say a big gunshot salute and rest in peace to the good brother Matula, Dr. Matula Shakur. Gunshots. Let's send them off in style. Dr. Matula Shakur, rest in paradise, my brother. You'll get everything you deserve because you helped to make me the man that who I am today, where I could talk to these young people. They might not like the method that I'm using, but I'm just being unique. All right? Let's get this rolling.
Cheers. Toast the crime.
Fresh out the can of 26, he back on the strip, getting back in the mix. What he mentions a gift. You stand up 10 toes down, and I suggest you pay attention to this. Take a little gully posse and put it in Harlem. He cut from the bottom, came up from the bottom. Drop the book, you should go and get it. An Instagram page and a YouTube, you could go and visit. Then you could consider yourself LinkedIn. Sit front row and get Jews from a kingpin. How he went through it, so you ain't gotta go do it. To not pay attention would be stupid. Talking about a man that probably put your grandfather on. Probably the reason that him and your grams got along. A man that generated millions on the block, did his time, never squilling to the cops, Mecca Audio. get it live like 2 G's in the 90s. Drop top beamer so shiny. I let shorty go, she was whining. Treat her like my past, she behind me. Spend a couple bands on the dapper Dan. You be back again, getting green like a Packers fan. No cap, it's a roaring uptown. They be horn uptown, Dominican bust down. Now we on the positive, you we got a lot to give. Now you trying to stop the kids from being inoperative. So take heed, homie, lend it air. He started in uptown, he gon' finish dead. But now it ain't about selling drugs, buying cars. It's about buying property to make the community ours. So we can give back to the youth them. Cause they the truth them. And bless up to all the rudiments.